Good morning, you guys. I want to talk about diabetes specifically this morning. So, look, it's impactful because I worked in medicine, knew that diabetes was bad, never thought it was going to affect me until I got diagnosed. So, I want to share my story for you guys so that anybody else who may be going through this journey can understand what's happening with your body, why you're not getting real answers. And that's the important part. So, how many of you have felt like your body was betraying you no matter what you did? You're going to the doctor, you're trying to look for answers, and you're getting all kinds of different paths, but you're not really getting better because that's right where I was. And that's why I want to talk to you guys today about it because I feel like so many of us are struggling with this and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't have to deal with it like this. So at one point, I couldn't walk without pain. My blood sugar was climbing out of nowhere, and I felt like my body was shutting down. I was terrified, but what scared me the most was not knowing if I'd ever get my health back. Because look, I worked for doctors, I worked with doctors, and they weren't helping. They were focusing on my weight and my blood sugar, but they ignored what was really happening. It seemed like they were ignoring all the other things or they weren't tying it together, which at the time I didn't know was necessary. So I would take in these big lists to the doctors and they would go off this way and they would go off that way, but nothing was being put together and nothing that they seemed to be giving me was really helping. And so I want to talk about that because even though they were focusing on my weight, my blood sugars, my liver, my kidneys, my gallbladder were struggling and nobody addressed it. Nobody even talked to me about it. Nobody said, hey, we see all these other things going on. Thank you for whoever's sending the likes. Queen, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I want people to get this information. So it's really important. If it's important to you, you know someone who might need it, share it out because I'm just sharing my story. So maybe you guys can hear yourselves in this and know that you don't have to stay this way, that it doesn't have to be that way. So at that point, I was just trying to survive. I had done keto, I had done all the things. Something happened to my lips today. So, but the entirety of my health was failing. I had neuropathy, edema, brain fog, body-wide pain, and so many other symptoms. My labs had always been normal, and I prided myself on that. Like my A1C is fine, my blood sugars are fine. I don't know why I'm having all these health issues, and none of my doctors addressed it either, right? Until it felt like overnight my blood sugar skyrocketed, my A1C was climbing, and I was suddenly been told, you're diabetic. Years and years. And nobody ever addressed that I was even heading that way because my labs didn't show it. Okay. And it might be happening with you too. I want you to hear me out because this is important for you. So my A1C kept climbing until it was like finally at 7.4 and it just kept going up no matter what we did. And I was terrified because nothing was bringing it down. Nothing was getting me feeling better. And I literally thought that I wouldn't live to see 65 because I was so sick. I knew that it was life-threatening to have diabetes, have my A1C that high, but I didn't know how to change it, and the doctors didn't seem to know how either because they just kept giving me, pills to take, whatever. My one doctor even gave me metformin, but it made me so violently ill, I just couldn't do it. My body hurt. I literally couldn't hold anything down, and I knew that wasn't the route for me. I didn't want to take any other kind of medications so then I'm stuck, right? We were so focused on that weight and blood sugar that no one ever mentioned all these other things. By the way, many of those medications are not good if your liver's failing, if your kidneys are failing, if you have gallbladder issues, but nobody really addresses it, right? Because they're just looking at that big piece, like we got to get this under control. But there are contraindications for all those things with most of those therapies that the doctors are giving you, okay? Nobody addressed that. And I knew that it was devastating. So the things they did tell me were avoid red meats. So I want you guys to tap the hearts, put a 1 in. If you guys have been told things like this, avoid red meats, avoid fats, avoid salt, get rid of the saturated fats, go to those better fats like the seed oils and the vegetable oils, use those, get rid of the saturated fats, get rid of the salt out of your diet. Yeah, cut down on the sugar, okay? All of those things except for cut down on the sugar were not necessary. How many of you guys have been told that and you're doing that, but you're not getting better? Because oh, the other one was eat every 2 hours, eat smaller meals and eat every 2 hours because the problem is you're eating these big meals. How about sea salt? Sea salt is amazing. I love and you know what I wanna tell you, Johnny, is that those things, avoid red meats, get rid of the saturated fats, cut the salt, and eat or the 4 things, and eat every 2 hours, actually made it worse. And there's a lot of science out now, we'll talk about that this afternoon, that, that these things that they've been traditionally recommending to us are actually making us sicker. And Colleen, you're right. Seed oils are so inflammatory. I had a talk with myself this weekend because I don't have seed oils in my house. But here's what happened to me. Sidebar. Here's what happened to me. My grandson, 8-year-old little disabled kid, playing basketball, takes a couple of face plants because of his disability, but gets up and keeps playing even with a bloody nose, just like he's a champ. And so I wanted to take him out to dinner after his basketball game before his weekend with me. He chose Chick-fil-A. Not my favorite spot in the world. Food tastes good, but you know what? I get sick every time. It's because of the chemicals and the seed oils that are abundant in that restaurant. He even ended up having gastrointestinal, like I spent the weekend cleaning up after him after one meal at Chick-fil-A. No, that's not pre-recorded. It is not pre-recorded. I'm live right now, Jackson. Okay. So it is absolutely not pre-recorded. The recording will drop um, in my YouTube later. So, all right. So that answers those questions. All right. So back to this my story. Anyway, the seed oils, I'm going to agree with that because they are so toxic and you don't understand how toxic they are until you start removing some of that stuff and then put it back in and see how your body reacts. So I had a hard fast rule this weekend. I was like, you guys, we are never, as far as I go, I'm never going to Chick-fil-A again. And I made it clear to my grandson, we're not doing it. We cannot eat at those places for him or I and stay healthy. It's just not an alternative. And great part because of the seed oils. But most of the restaurants you're eating at are using seed oils to prepare the food, right? So how do you do it? Well, you got to just do a little bit better where you can, and I'll talk about that this afternoon. But back to my story. We were so focused on that weight and the blood sugar, we missed all the other things. But here's the thing, what people don't understand about me is I went from world champion athlete to being disabled, have a disability plate. I had a walker, I had a cane, I was headed for a wheelchair, couldn't go up and down stairs, couldn't get up off the couch to walk because I was in so much pain that nobody was able to figure out what was going on. So, would you be shocked if that was you and then you later find out that it all linked back to one thing that nobody was addressing? That they weren't talking about how this all leads back to our modern food environment. So, I did do keto. I did keto for a very long time as an athlete. I did do veganism for over a year, wasn't feeling better. I did do the medical medium. Excuse me. I created these big spreadsheets and did all this stuff and found all the intersections between my excuse me, my symptoms and his remedies. And there, I had a dry spot. So I found the intersections, right? And I created my own shake that I would drink every morning. But it also meant that I was having to go to the grocery store 3 times a week to get all the stuff to make these shakes. And I did that for a very long time, and it was not changing my health. And that's when my doctor put me on the metformin that made me sick, and I felt hopeless. I felt like everything was over. Nothing I did was working. And so, honestly, at some point, I just was like, I'm struggling. I'm doing all of these things. I'm cutting my food back. I'm trying to eat clean. I'm eating weird stuff that I don't even know that I like, but I'm just trying to change my health and it's not working. And it wasn't like, oh, I tried it for a week. It was years of trying this stuff. Nothing was working. So at some point, I remember thinking, and let me know if you guys feel like you're here too. I just felt like, what the hell am I trying for? I did have neuropathy, Mary Kit. I had neuropathy and edema. It was so bad that I felt like I should buy stock in diabetic foot socks. My feet and legs were so swollen, I couldn't wear my regular shoes. My nursing shoes went out the window. I only bought shoes that were elastic so they could grow with my feet. I couldn't wear my regular athletic socks. I was buying diabetic socks for me and my mother, and I felt like I was a vibrant person who all of a sudden became an old person and was everything that I couldn't imagine. So I found a protocol here on social media. I'm going to share that with you because it made my life easy. But I want you to understand the story, and we're going to get there. And I'll talk even more about it this afternoon because it's simple, you guys. It's way simpler than anybody's making it. And your physicians are not telling you because they're not educated in this part. They're not given nutrition courses. Let's call in Unimate absolutely helps. So, how many of you guys understand that the physician you're going to see every day has not had a nutrition class in their education? 80% of our physicians have not had even one nutrition class in their education. Did you guys know that? I had diabetes type 2. So, Ben, are you type 2 or type 1? I want to talk about that real quick because I want to help you understand some things. Type 2 or type 1 because Ben says he has diabetes, feels so much better now on insulin. You have type 1. So absolutely you need insulin because your body can't produce it, right? How many of you guys are type 2 or think you might be type 2? Because it's a very similar but different disorder, right? But I want to tell you, Ben, even with type 1, I have many type 1 people using the protocol and it helps them because the root of all of this is still the same. Your body can't produce it, our body produces it but can't recognize it. So we're going to get into the depth of that science this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But hang out with me because, Ben, I'm glad you're feeling better. But I want you to understand what's happening with insulin and what could be. Your doctor said your test was 4.6. Yeah. So I'm not a doctor. I don't do those tests, but I will tell you what I know coming from metabolic scientists, and we're going to get again into the depth of that this afternoon. I want to go back to my story just because I want you to understand where I was. Hopefully you're going to find yourself in this and it's going to make a difference for you. But remember, so I have diabetes now. I never knew I had diabetes before. Nobody ever told me, wasn't ever on the radar. But all of a sudden I'm being told I have diabetes. But again, nobody's addressing the edema, the neuropathy. Those were visible to me, right? And I knew that I had them, but nobody talked about my liver failing, and it was failing heavily. So non-alcoholic fatty liver, we'll talk about that later this week. My kidneys were failing. My gallbladder was suffering. I had so many other internal things going on that was showing up in my blood work, but nobody addressed because they were focused on weight and diabetes, and they weren't linking it. At 3 after my story. Perfect, perfect. So, and we'll get into all that. I want you to understand, and my brain just works that way. So, I did all these things. Let's not say that, oh, she just laid on the couch and ate donuts and she got sick because I was eating clean and still suffering. Okay, so genetics plays a small part, but more so our food. So how could I be eating clean and still suffering? We're going to talk about that this afternoon too, about how our food is so changed that it's causing us to be ill. I have vegans, I have pescatarians who buy all their food at the farmers market who still suffer, and they found help with the protocol that I use. So after blending all those shakes and eating clean and doing all of that, somebody made a comment. I'm going to address that. I'm going to address it because I thought it was hilarious. Said if I don't like smoothies, right? They know this, and so if ketchup is a fruit, if tomatoes are a fruit, is ketchup a smoothie? Yeah, basically it is, right? That's why it spikes your blood sugar so much. So yeah, it's a hilarious comment, but it's true. It's true. So here's the end of my story, not the end of my story, the other part of it. So I'm feeling hopeless. I'm feeling like things just can't change. I'm being told that it's all my fault. If I would just lose weight, if I would just do better, I would feel better. At the same time, we're trying to address my diabetes. What really became a problem with my weight was I had a hernia that every time I engaged my core, it would poke out by my belly button the size of my fist. My insides were poking out under my skin the size of my fist every time I tried to sit up from a laying position, every time I engaged my core in any way. So I was sent to a surgeon to fix that hernia. Now, this little surgeon walks in the room, small blonde lady. Later, she changed her attitude towards me, but she walks in and sees me, and she kind of rolls her eyes and does the whole under her breath thing, and tells me if I would lose weight, I would do better. She told me she would not do the surgery if I didn't lose 15 pounds. Now, she had all her reasoning behind it, whatever. She made her case for why that had to happen. In the meantime, I'm like, but my guts are poking through my belly button the size of my fist. Like, you can see it protrude. And she was like, sorry, I will not consent to doing this surgery unless you lose 15 pounds. Come back to me in 3 months. If you've lost the 15 pounds, we'll do the surgery. If you haven't, too bad for you, basically. And she said, but here's the thing, I'm going to write you a prescription to go see a nutritionist so we can figure out. Your doctor was kind. I'm so glad, user 1332, that your doctor was kind. Umbilical hernia, similar to what mine was. Mine was not. And so at that appointment, I had just gotten the protocol, and I said, hey, look, okay, I get that you want me to lose 15 pounds. Give me a chance. I'm doing this thing. And she just rolled her eyes again, like, even though I told her it was in the PDR, even though I told her it was science, she just was like, no, it's you. You just need to do better. Here's your prescription to the nutritionist. By the time I went to the nutritionist, I had lost the 15 pounds that I wasn't able to lose before. And when I got on that call with the nutritionist, they didn't want to talk to me because I'd already lost the weight, and I told them what I was doing, and they almost hung up on me. And I said, no, I mean, in all honesty, like, I want to know, what is it that I'm missing in my daily life? What is it that I've been doing wrong that caused me to be this ill? What is wrong? What do I need to change? And they went back to the avoid red meats, cut out saturated fats, eat every 2 hours and eat smaller meals, avoid salt. The same four things I had been being told my entire life that weren't working. And all I said to them was, hey, I appreciate that, but I've tried those things and they weren't working. Is there something else? And they literally said, I'm done with you. See ya. And they hung up. That was it. That was it for me and my nutritionist that was prescribed by my surgeon. So at that point, when I started the protocol, I wanted to lose weight. That was part of it, right? Address my diabetes and lose weight. Within a month, my memory was returning, I had less brain fog, I had more energy, my blood pressure was coming down, my edema and swelling was going away, but I hadn't lost weight. So you guys, when I started, I didn't believe this was going to work, but it had a guarantee. So I'm like, what the heck? You got to try everything, right? How many of you guys feel like that? Like, you've just pumped money into everything. Nothing is working. You're just done. I don't want to hear another thing. I've heard this before. I don't want to hear another thing because I've tried it all. That's where I was, but I tried it. And at a month in, I hadn't lost weight and I was mad. So let's talk about weight loss really quick because this is important for you guys. Weight loss is not about the number on the scale. Getting rid of fat is not about the number on the scale. Do you guys believe that? Do you believe that? Because I knew it, but I didn't really accept it until it happened to me. So I was complaining at 30 days in, I haven't lost any weight. This isn't working. This is a bunch of crap. Those were thoughts I had. I was not that on fire for this back then. I knew that all these other changes had happened, but I didn't have any weight loss. I'm on a journey to reverse diabetes and weight loss. So stay with me for a second. I'm just sharing a little bit of story that hopefully is resonating with some of you guys. And then come back at 3 this afternoon because we're going to get into the science of it. If you care about the science, we're going to get into the science of why this is working and how to do all of this. So where was I? We were talking about the weight loss. We were talking about, anyway, nobody addressed that this was all really insulin resistance. Nobody addressed any of that all of these symptoms that I'd had were all linked together. Do you guys know that 95% of why you're feeling bad today is all linked to insulin resistance? One thing. So instead of having, like, I had 13 medications at one point, instead of having 13 medications sitting on your counter, if you could understand that there's one thing causing it and it's not your fault, and you could actually feel better, would that change your world? And so over on Facebook, YouTube, you guys are amazing. Thanks for sharing. I want to share this because I know that if I was suffering and I had this going on with my physicians, I'm not the only one, right? I cannot be the only one who had this kind of experience. Gaslighting, eye rolling, those deep sighs, those, if you would just lose weight, you would feel better. And you're like, but I've been doing all the things to lose weight and I can't. And they're like, too bad. That's all your problem is. You just lazy. You just don't wanna face the facts. You just don't wanna do better. So until you accept the responsibility of your own self, then you're not gonna get better. Now we have some culpability, and I'm not gonna take that away. Diabetic is tough and never been bigger. Curtis, I'm gonna give you an answer here in just a minute. Hang out with me, you guys. Hang on, hang on. We're gonna get there. So look, so I get back for number one, let's go back to the weight loss. Your weight is not about the weight on the scale, or your fat loss, your health is not about the weight on the scale. Totally. So when I was at 30 days, hadn't lost weight, what I was encouraged to do was take my measurements. Oh, damn, I forgot to take them before I got started because I was so embarrassed by my measurements. I didn't even want to accept what they were. But I'll tell you this story. When I started this protocol, I had bought a pair of shorts and I couldn't buckle them. They were tight. I couldn't even get them closed. But I'm like, this is going to be the thing, and this is going to be the measure. I'm going to wear these shorts by summer. They were cool. They were, the distressed short, the denim. I never wear denim, um, but I'm going to buy them. So at a month in, when my scale wasn't moving and I hadn't taken measurements, I'm like, oh, I'll go try those shorts on. Guess what? Those shorts that were gapped, I couldn't buckle them. I couldn't zip them. I could buckle them and zip them comfortably. The legs were already starting to get loose. And I was like, oh, this whole thing. You guys hear me out. When you're losing weight, when you have insulin resistance means you're not able to put on lean tissue. So you're losing muscle mass, and your muscle, think of your heart, your liver, your kidneys, all of it that you need to function, your intestines, that's all muscle tissue. They cannot grow and build like they're supposed to when insulin resistance is in your system, when you can't use insulin, right? So you're losing muscle mass, you're gaining fat because insulin makes you store fat. So as you start to reverse that, your body starts to pull fat off and build more muscle. Now, per volume, fat weighs less than muscle. So why was my scale weight not changing, but I was getting smaller? Because I was losing fat. And even though I wasn't doing crazy workouts, my body was naturally able to recoup some lean tissue. And that's important, you guys. When you're going on these crazy diets, when you're doing all of this other stuff, you may be losing weight, but please understand, especially with some of those injectables, you could be losing up to 40% of that weight in muscle mass. Now, if you're an older person, that's almost impossible to put back on. If you're younger, you can possibly put it back on, but it takes way longer to put it back on than it took to lose it. Sidebar, okay? So back to the story. So I finally get back to the doctor's office, the surgeon's office, about 3 months later, after I'd had a conversation with the nutritionist, after I'd been doing this protocol, after I was starting to understand what insulin resistance was, and I'd lost 25 pounds and not just the 15 she wanted. So 30 days in, I had lost no weight and I was mad. Remember that. I was mad. I was ready to quit. 6 weeks in, I started losing weight. By 3 months, I'd lost 25 pounds. You guys got to give your time. When you're looking at natural solutions, you've got to give your body time to heal. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. Now, most of us are given solutions that feel unsustainable and way too long and all of that. So we'll address that too, because this protocol makes it easy and sustainable and helps you address the root cause. And so just be patient, give it 90 days. Now, so I go back into the surgeon's office. She's shocked. And she's like, how did you do it? And I said, remember that protocol that I talked to you about 3 months ago? That's what I did. She goes, well, what? It had to be the nutritionist. The nutritionist helped. And I said, I just met with a nutritionist 2 weeks ago. How could I have lost 25 pounds in 2 weeks from that? And that the nutritionist actually hung up on me. And she was like, oh. Well, whatever. We're gonna do your surgery now. We're gonna do it because you lost the weight I wanted you to lose." And she felt all triumphant. And what was it? A month and a half later, I go in for surgery, have the surgery, fix the hernia. That's what the surgery was for. And a couple of things from this doctor. When she went in to do the surgery, for someone my age and size, I had far less visceral fat than she had ever seen on someone doing the surgery. If you guys don't know, visceral fat is the fat that builds up under the muscle wall of your belly. Subcutaneous fat is the stuff that's under the skin on top of the muscle that makes it lumpy, bumpy, and makes you start to blow up like my picture. Okay, like my picture. That's subcutaneous fat. But you see that belly that's poking out? The reason the belly is poking out is because of visceral fat. So that's part of the reason, in honesty, why she wanted me to lose 15 pounds, because she felt like she couldn't do the surgery well if there was too much fat underneath that muscle wall. But so 5 months on the system, far less visceral fat than she'd ever seen doing this surgery for someone my size and age. Not only that, but I healed up quicker. The drain tubes were removed the day that was the soonest day they could remove them. They pulled them out, and her nurse was so skeptical. The doctor later told me a couple of things. They bet that I was never going to have the surgery, that I was never going to lose the weight, because she saw so many times that people couldn't lose the weight. You guys, these medical professionals are telling you to do this stuff, but they're not giving you the answers. And the answer's simple. That's why people aren't losing weight. That's why people are still suffering and still sick. Okay. So when you understand that it doesn't have to be that difficult, that it doesn't take a pill, that it doesn't take an injection, that it doesn't take any of that to address the root cause to make you feel better, then you'll start to feel better and you won't feel so gaslit by those professionals. Okay. That's important, because I know that many of you are in the same boat that I was. So we had the surgery, pulled the drain tubes. 4 weeks later, I took a trip to Puerto Vallarta, went ziplining, and they were amazed, because there's no way that I should have gone through that surgery. 4 weeks later, been hiking, climbing, engaging my core on zip lines and doing all of that. And remember, so that was in the beginning of August that I took the trip to Puerto Vallarta. In March is when I started the system and was diagnosed with diabetes, couldn't walk, had a walker and a cane, had disability plates on my car, was in pain constantly, was wearing diabetic foot socks and expandable shoes. And from March to the beginning of October, I healed my body so much that I was able to climb mountains, go ziplining, and heal from a surgery that happened 4 weeks earlier. What? In all my time working with physicians and gym bros and all of that, I had never experienced anything like that. Okay. I want that for you guys too. So here's the truth. All I did, are you guys ready for what I did? Does anybody want to know how to reverse your diabetes or put it in remission, help your health overall get better, and not have to go on crazy diets, keto, veganism, do all the medical medium stuff, create all these shakes? So all I did was a protocol that added to my day, because the truth is our food is defunct. Do you guys believe that? That our food is not what we need it to be, and this is why we're sick. So some of the things that have been stripped out of our food are vitamins and minerals. I've heard many, many nutritional specialists talk about the fact that our food, even when you're eating raw organic, our food is 40 to 70% less dense in nutrients than it used to be. And our body needs it. And then you add insulin resistance on the top of it, and you can't absorb the nutrients. Why insulin resistance? Because our food went from fat and protein based to carbohydrate based. And when they moved us to carbohydrate based, they stripped away the fiber. So now we're getting loads and loads of sugar. We're not getting other building blocks, and we don't have the fiber that slows down the sugar in our system. So the protocol I use is simple, simple. It's 2 products that I drink at 3 points during the day. They're not replacing anything. They're not doing anything but giving my body the support it needs, bridging the gap between where I was with my nutrition and where I want to be with my nutrition. So 2 drinks, you guys can find it in my and I'm going to tell you about it right now. Facebook, YouTube, there's the link. You can go check my landing page On TikTok, it's gonna be in my profile. A tea that I have every morning and a pre-meal drink that you can have once a day before your biggest meal with carbohydrates. I choose to have the pre-meal drink every time I eat because I am a total believer in fiber now. But look, the tea is, how many of you guys have heard the uh, Ozempic Monjaro alternative, and they're showing you this yerba mate tea? Have you guys heard that, seen that on all your social media channels? It's prevalent here on TikTok, and maybe it's just my algorithm. But what I want to tell you is what the tea that we have, it's a simple tea. It's yerba mate, it's some stevia for sweetness. It's a little bit of flavoring in there, like lemon or lemon ginger, or we have apple spice. But the difference between this and anything else you're going to find on the market is that it is listed in the prescriber's digital reference here in the US, which means scientific studies, clinical studies to show that it actually works. It can increase your GLP-1, that hormone that everybody's talking about. It increases it naturally by up to 70% when drinking this tea. Why? Because our tea is handpicked, so we're not getting all the weird leaves and stems that are not beneficial to us. We get the stuff that we need. We fire roast it to remove the chemical compounds from the bulk of the plant that we don't need. We extract that, then we concentrate it so that it's so concentrated, it's up to 375 times stronger than any bagged or canned or any other yerba mate tea. Now, the big part for this for me is not only the ethical harvesting and the sustainable harvesting and all of that, but then we now take it to a process that hyper purifies it. So now you have a tea that's extremely concentrated. Nothing else on the market can come to its concentration. Now, when we purify it, what happens is PAHs, pesticides, other toxins, molds, microplastics get removed from our product. Do you know that you're ingesting all of that in the coffee you're drinking and the other yerba mate teas you're drinking? We've removed all of that and concentrated so that it's as impactful for you as it can be. Why is that important? It's giving you energy. It's shutting down your hunger. It's helping you with insulin sensitivity, which means your insulin is now able to function like it's supposed to in the body, meaning you need less insulin to do that. So the guy who's type 1 diabetic, this can help you for that reason. It's shutting down your hunger, right? It's changing how your sugar reacts in your body. And when I drink it, I'm in a fasted state this morning. I am not breaking my fast when I drink this tea. It's supporting everything. It helps increase HGH, human growth hormone. It helps increase ketones in my body in a fasted state. So now I have this amazing space where I can burn fat and start to become more metabolically healthy. The second piece, so I have this in the morning and then I actually mix it up in a mug like this size and then just sip it throughout the day. So 2 tea in here, I sip throughout the day. And then the other part is a pre-meal drink that I just mix up in cold water before I eat. So how many of you guys have heard of the glucose goddess? I was listening to her this morning. You guys heard of the glucose goddess? She talks a lot about insulin resistance and whatnot. One of her big things is a veggie starter, right? Because she wants you to get fiber in. So all we're doing is, I'm not a huge vegetable eater. All I'm doing is getting in the right fiber before I eat when I drink this. That is helping me feel fuller when I eat, so I eat less. It's helping me with blood sugar regulation. It's helping me, and there's components in it that are heart healthy. So both the tea and the fiber that I drink, or the pre-meal drink that I drink, are helping my heart. So my blood pressure at 180 over 150 at some point every single day before, back in 2021, now is 110 over 74. No medications, no prescriptions. This is all that it took because those two both have heart healthy components. And I want to be clear because I've had people ask me about that. We're not talking about blood pressure this morning, but we're talking about blood pressure. If you have low blood pressure, what it does is it stabilizes your blood pressure. It's not going to take a low blood pressure and drive it lower. Get that thought out of your mind. It will take a high blood pressure and stabilize it to a normal. It will help a low blood pressure come up as well. So those two things, real food, vegan, gluten-free. I'm a carnivore, but this is vegan. Vegan is important to some people. It's all plant-based. It's all the nutrition that that's been stripped out of our foods, and that's how you're getting better. Okay. So there's some questions over here, and it's not scrolling down to let me see them. Christian, I can't see your last comment. Okay. So that's all it is, you guys. It's in my profile, but here's the thing. You can just go order it. That's fine. But if you want to have conversation and understand how and why this may work for you, or let me know what you're suffering with, is this something that you even need? Or could benefit from, please just talk to me. I love to have conversation with people and try and help them out. It has a 90-day money back guarantee. Does your doctor give you that? Nope. Your doctor doesn't say if my advice works in 90 days or doesn't work, I'll give you your money back. None of those other things that you're taking or injecting, they're not telling you if in 90 days it's not working, you're going to get your money back. This is real food. It's got a 90-day money back guarantee. It's listed in the PDR, tons of science behind it. It's not going to go away or change. You guys, it's the best thing I did for my health and the simplest thing I did for my health. So, what does my day look like? Admittedly, I ate a little bit late last night because I was playing video games with my adult son and some of our friends. So I think I had my last bite of food at 10 o'clock last night. It's 11 o'clock. So I haven't eaten in 13 hours. I just drank the tea. I want to get to 16 hours. If you guys want to, do you guys want to know why I want to make it to 16 hours with intermittent fasting, why that's so important? Give me some hearts or put a one in the chat if you want to know why intermittent fasting actually works. But so I'm trying to make it to hour 16, which means I've got 3 more hours, 12, 1, 2 o'clock. So about 2 o'clock, I'll have my first meal. When I have my first meal, I'll eat whatever I like, but I'm going to focus on proteins and fats in that meal. Why proteins and fats? Protein is the most satiating component you can eat. Okay. So when they're telling you to start ditching all the red meats and stuff, red meat is actually one of the best proteins you can eat. If your body's built for it, it's built for it. If it's not, it's not. I get that. But protein will also spike your insulin about half as much as a carbohydrate does. But it is the most satiating, meaning when you eat protein for that first meal, you're not going to feel hungry later. You're going to stay fuller longer. That's important. Spikes the insulin about half as much as a carbohydrate does. That's important. Proteins need fats. I haven't talked about this for a while. Proteins need fats. Proteins give you nourishment to your muscles, to your lean tissue, right? So as you're growing this lean tissue, there's a sheath around that that holds it together. Guess what that little membrane around your muscle tissue is made of? It's made of fat. So if you're going to be building extra muscle in your body, if you're going to be nourishing your muscle, you've got to give it some fat for that containment to hold on. Okay. So protein and fats. Then let's talk about carbohydrates because a lot of people get this wrong. If it's not a protein and it's not a fat, some things can be combined, right? But it is a carbohydrate, like avocados. There's some fiber, there's some carbohydrate, primarily fats. But carbohydrates can be your fruits and vegetables, not just grains and the bagged, boxed, barcoded stuff I talk about. Angel, I see your comment. We're going to talk about fasting here just now. I'll give you a timeline on what fasting looks like, according to our scientists, our metabolic scientists. Okay. So understand that. When you focus on your food, protein first, then fats, saturated fats, not those seed oils. Not the seed oils. I did a video a few days back. Look at it. Seed oils cause inflammation. Inflammation increases insulin resistance. Stay away from seed oils. And then have your carbohydrates. Okay. Protein, fats, then carbohydrates. All right. So fasting. Why do I do intermittent fasting? I'm going to throw in some stuff about OMAD and a 16/8 fast like I do. Okay. And carnivore diet is okay if your body thrives on that and you can do that, fine. But we have carnivores who do this system as well. So there are people who can do strict carnivore, and there's all variations of carnivore. I am going to admit, lately I've been eating way too many grains and my body feels it. So I've got to get that cleaned up. Traditionally, I'm more carnivoristic where I eat meat, fats, and vegetables. Okay, I don't do a lot of fruit, but that's me. Yes, I love carnivore. Whatever version you're doing, I love it. Just stay away from the grains and the bag box stuff. So back to fasting. What we're doing when we're fasting, and this is from our scientists at this company, is this. When you eat, about 2 hours after you eat is when you guys, I'm going to back up a step. Understand through all of this, as I explain all of this, your body takes a minute for things to happen. It's not like you take a sip of something and boom, throughout your body, everything happens. It's not a light switch that flips on like that quick. You know how you go to the wall, flip the light switch on, and your lights are on? Well, that still has to go through a whole process of wires and everything to get there. It just is much quicker. Our body is similar. It takes a while for all these actions to happen. So you eat, and after you eat, your body's starting to process what you ate, starting to break it down, starting to get the sugars out, which is energy in your body. Okay. And it's got to go through your gut where it breaks it down. And then it hits your small intestine where it can absorb it. And then it hits your large intestine where it's starting to get rid of what's left. Now, it takes about 2 hours for all of this process to happen and your blood sugars to start to really spike to where they're going to be the highest from what you ate. That's 2 hours after you ate. It takes about another 2 hours. So at 4 hours, your blood sugar then starts to drop and normalize again. Now, depending on how high you spiked your insulin after you ate, your insulin will take a while to come down. The average is about 8 hours. So at hour 4, your blood sugar comes down. Insulin's stubborn. You spiked it high and told it you need it. Now it's going to say, I'm going to stay here and do my job. It takes at hour 8 after you had your last bite of food before insulin starts to go, oh, okay, they're not putting more food in their body. I can come down. Are you guys starting to see the flaw in eat every 2 hours? Spike your insulin, spike your insulin, spike your insulin. Not the best way to get metabolic health. Okay. Hour 8, the insulin goes, okay, I can start to come down and I can start to go to bed. Now, why is that important? Insulin is anabolic, meaning it wants things to grow. It's not going to let you burn fat until it comes down. It blocks fat burning. It creates fat storage. But now insulin says, okay, I'm going to start to go away. I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to go to sleep. But it takes a couple more hours for the other hormone. Everything in your body is a balance, right? The other hormone is glucagon, and glucagon can't come out and do its job until insulin is down. Okay, so insulin goes to bed about 8 o'clock. 2 hours later, at about 10 hours later from your last bite, glucagon comes out. Now, glucagon is catabolic. It wants to eat things up. So what glucagon is really doing is it's eating up your fat stores. It's eating up other tissue to create glucose in your system so you still have energy to run off of. And guess what? Your fat stores are stored glucose. But at hour 10, glucagon comes out. Again, remember, it's not going to be immediate. So the body starts to get the clues from glucagon. At hour 12, your body's starting to go, oh, hey, we have this job to do. So it's going to increase human growth hormone. It's going to increase ketones at hour 12. Again, you got to give it time. Now, at hour 14, human growth hormone, ketones, glucagon are out in the body, insulin's asleep. Now, with all of these cues in your system, your body goes, we can burn fat for fuel. We need fat. We're going to go burn up the fat. We're going to get rid of some of these excess stores. So for 2 hours, between hours 14 and hour 16, your body's able to actually really burn fat. But you're not getting there if you stop at hour 10 when glucagon just comes out. You're not getting there at hour 12 when glucagon is just starting to give its cues. Okay? So if you're not capable of doing it, start where you can and work up to 16 hours. Now, at 16 hours, you can have your first meal. And Faye, I'll answer that in just a second. She asks, what time should you stop eating? Now, at 16 hours, you can eat. You can push it to 17 or 18. Now you have an 8-hour window between hour 16 and hour 24 that you can eat. But you want to focus on 2 big meals, which is absolutely against what everyone else has told you. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute too. But now my first meal when I go eat, it's gonna be something today like sausage and eggs, maybe some cheese. I don't know how I'm gonna fix them, but that's probably what I'm gonna have for my first meal, protein and fats, right? If I wanna add in something like I have grapes in the other room, I have some other vegetables, mushrooms, tomatoes, whatever, I can add that in. But my focus is going to be on getting in the protein and fats. Then, at any time after that, at least 4 hours later, I can have my second meal. At that meal, maybe I'll have rice. I'm not a big pasta eater, but sometimes I will. So, I have some steak in there and I have some hamburger that needs cooked up. Maybe I'll have a hamburger with mushrooms and tomatoes on it and some caramelized onions. That may be what my dinner is. Do I wanna throw in some tater tots or whatever? I can if I want to. I don't have to. I don't often, but I can because I'm having that pre-meal drink that's reducing the blood sugar spike by protecting me from how quickly blood sugars hit the system. Now, so at 16:8, you're eating 2 meals in an 8-hour period. A lot of people get it wrong and they think this is about calorie restriction. It's not, it's not, it's not, it's not, it's not about calorie restriction. It's about allowing your body to fuel itself in the 2 ways that it's supposed to. Either you're fueling from fat or you're fueling from carbohydrates. So, why start with protein and fats on my first meal after my fast? Because now I can kind of extend that a little bit because remember, my body's ready to burn fat at that time. So, if I'm feeding myself dietary fats, allowing myself to fuel from that, that process is going to extend a little bit longer and then have my carbohydrates later in the day. Now, what time should I stop eating? Faye, it depends on your lifestyle. When I worked overnights, when I did some other like, maybe I stopped eating in the morning when I got home from work, and then I slept. The biggest part, you guys, is whatever your lifestyle looks like, whatever your timeline looks like, utilize that sleep time as part of your fast. Now you're sleeping away part of when you're fasting, and you're allowing your body to rest, which it needs, so that it can do all the work it needs to do. Fast when you're resting, right? Stop eating a couple hours before you go to bed. If you go to bed at midnight, then maybe you want to stop eating at 7 or 8. And then if you go to bed earlier, you want to stop eating a little bit earlier because you don't want, why the stop eating earlier? Because you don't want your gut full of all that stuff that it's working to get digested. You kind of want that out of your system. And remember, about 4 hours is when that happens. Okay. Your body needs fiber. Exactly, it does, TJ. All doctors say what's wrong, T. I don't understand what all doctors say it's wrong. Fasting, your body does, oh, carnivore. Not all doctors say carnivore is wrong. Your body needs fiber if you're getting in carbohydrates, right? Yeah. And I believe in fiber anyway because helps your colon clean out. It does so many other things that I am a huge fiber lover. I didn't used to be because I didn't understand it, but I will have my pre-meal drink, which is 7 different kinds of fiber, even when I'm not eating. I use it if I get a hold of seed oils and have indigestion. I use it when I'm feeling hungry. I don't always use it just when I'm eating. I have more than one of those pre-meal drinks a day. That's what helps keep my body pain-free and living the way I want to live. I'm not promoting a carnivore diet. Somebody asked if a carnivore diet is okay, and I'm going to say for some people, yes, it is. For some people, a vegan diet's okay. Not everybody came from the same part of the earth. Not everybody's genetics were built that way. An apple a day to keep the doctor away. The issue with the apple a day for me is that people are relying on that like we used to be able to 50 years ago. And our apples don't have the fiber they used to have in them, and the glucose or the fructose has been pumped up in those. So, yeah, have an apple, but don't overdo it, guys. You need a balance between meat and veggies like we were designed to eat. Some of us were, and some of us weren't, T. So you think about like uh, Alaska natives, primarily protein and fats. You start trying to throw in too many veggies that they're not used to, their body's going to rebel. No, I'm not. I eat carnivoristic because I'm a Native American from the Great Lakes region. We ate an abundance of red meat and fats. Cranberries are one of my favorite things. That's what we harvested, matches me genetically. Okay, so I'm all about everybody eating what is matching them genetically. Okay. So you don't have to do a lot of work with that. Just look at your history and look at the people. If you're Mediterranean, you're going to eat more fish, right? I'm from an area, we didn't have a lot of chicken and we had some lake fish, but most of our meat was red meat. So that's where I'm coming from. Um, an apple a day to keep the doctor away, then meat, Celtic salt, lemon water in the morning, bone broths, and warming stews. I love bone broths, I do, and I love stews as long as for me they're got some fats in them, as long as they've got some good proteins in them. But right now it's cold out. I've been craving some stews or soups, so I probably will go make one today. All right, you guys, I think that's all the questions over there. Do you guys over on TikTok have questions? We're talking about in my story, you guys, I do want to go back to this because this protocol that I talk about, the reason I'm so excited about it is I did all the things. I did all the things that felt unsustainable and like, oh my gosh, I can never have cake at my grandkid's birthday again. I can never go to a wedding and because most of the wedding foods they have out are all carbohydrates and whatnot. And I'm always the weird one that everybody has to work around. When I was doing keto, it was like, oh my God, here comes Misha. What are we going to put on the plate? Because she won't eat half of this. I don't have to be that person anymore. I can eat what I like. I can go to events and enjoy what everyone else is doing and then go back to my regular life. And the protocol helps me with everything when I go off. Okay. So I get to have a sustainable, livable, enjoyable life and not stress about the rest because I'm just giving my body the nutrition it's supposed to be getting in the first place. And it works. It just works, you guys. When we're getting in the nutrition that we're supposed to be getting and are not, even through all of our raw organic foods, our bodies suffer. And this just helps that. So, you never ate bison meat, wish to try it someday. It's a different meat, but man, up on the I grew up in North Idaho, and the Kootenai tribe up there would have they actually had some bison that they I wouldn't call it farmed, but they had control over some bison. And then, when they would have dishes made out of that, and it was great. But you know what? I also went to the Washington coast and ate traditional food over there, salmon and whatnot. Uh, Very different, though, right? That's what I'm talking about. The Kootenai Indians, natives, didn't eat as much salmon, more bison, more red meat. Go more to the coast, it's more salmon. And you guys need to understand that with your own bodies. Look at where your history comes from and feed your body accordingly. And then pay attention to making sure you're getting in nutrients that's lacking in our food today. Grains ruin your stomach and believes it gives me. You know what? So, Christo, let's talk about this because I'm human. You guys, I am not perfect. I make mistakes. I fall off the bandwagon. The one thing I never do is not get these in a day. But I've had a moment in time, about a month, where I've been like, oh, I started eating croissants too much. I started having whatever. And I started actually having a condition called eosinophilic esophagitis more. And I should have known better. My daughter just went in and had an endoscopy, and they told her she has it too. And she said, well, how do I fix it? And they said, well, two of the inflammatory foods that cause this eosinophilic esophagitis, which is an inflammation in your esophagus, and you start choking, your esophagus closes off and doesn't let stuff pass, is grains, wheat, and milk. And guess what? I've been choking more lately. I had not been choking for 3 years. All of a sudden I'm choking because I started eating way more grains. Yes, I'm clearly mixed white and native, but so the white part of me is predominantly Irish and French. My mother's side is Irish. There's some French in my mixed heritage as well. So genetics are not the overriding factor, they're an underlying factor. But if you're someone who um, is not used to having those red meats in your genetics, it's not going to work for you. There's a lot of books on it, like Eat Right for Your Blood Type, Eat Right for Your Body Type. Check those out. They talk about some of this. One of my favorite authors right now about food is Dr. Yao, Yeo. He has several books on eating, and he has one on why calories don't count. And they all lean into this. I'm not telling you that you have to go be a weirdo about it, but I'm saying don't do something that's foreign to you completely. Do I eat Indian food and I'm not an Indian, as in a dot Indian? Yeah, I love Indian food. My kids and I used to do Indian food every Wednesday night, right? Do I eat Hispanic food, Mexican food? Yes, I do. Do I eat Italian food? Yes, I do. But the basis of what I eat is still red meat and fats and chicken. Well, I do have chicken because, there's that. Chicken seems to be one of the things that I digest better. Again, it's about finding what works for your body. If you're eating something and it doesn't make you feel good, stop eating it. That's it. Okay. You guys, at 3 o'clock in just a couple of hours, I'll be back. We're going to dive into what insulin resistance is, how it's caused. We're going to dive into how it leads into diabetes and why it's important to address it. All the things that are linked. Yes, diabetes is end-stage insulin resistance, and I'm going to go over that. We're going to talk about the things that are linked and why this is so important to your health, and I'm going to give you a little bit more of the science part of it. So join me back at 3 o'clock, and we'll talk about all of that. If you're interested in getting it under control, go to my link in bio. There's a whole page up there. I have a website. There's other success stories. Do that and then come back and talk to me, you guys. And if you just want to watch for a while, I have people who've watched for 3-6 months and then said, you know what am I waiting for? I'm going to dive in and try it. It's your journey. Just understand that it doesn't have to be as hard as you're being told, and that you're not getting all the answers you should be from your current healthcare because they're not educated in it. So we'll see you guys at 3. Thanks for joining me. This will be on YouTube at Brilliant Health with Misha. After this is done, all of my live streams are there. You can go back and watch, fast forward through anything you don't want to watch on that channel. Meats, eggs, and vegetables, rice, potatoes, good salt, some fruit, citrus. So, Crystal, one thing I'm going to tell you is this. I have potatoes too. You guys, I am a potato lover, right? Um, we can talk about maybe we'll do a talk on foods one day this week, but Dr. Bickman, this is what he quantifies it with. And he wrote this book. He's one of the top metabolic scientists in the world. You want to focus on fruits and vegetables that grow above ground, right? The ones that grow below ground will spike your sugar higher than the ones that grow above ground. Dark leafy, dark green vegetables, darkly colored vegetables above ground is where you want to focus. Okay. Am I saying you can never have a potato again? No, I'm not. Because the protocol helps with that. And beans, you're mentioning beans, Christo, one of the most beneficial beans. A little tip for you guys. So you're talking beans, legumes. What bean helps your blood sugar the most? Do you know which one it is? Do you think you know? There's one specific bean, and I find it less and less on the shelves than I used to, and it will actually help you keep blood sugar spikes at bay. Do you know which one? Yeah, beets are high in sugars too. They're really great in other things. Just, everything in moderation, guys. Everything in moderation. Focus on the above ground ones. But do you know which lentil, which legume, not lentil, legume is the best to help you keep blood sugar spikes at bay? And some professionals are saying you should have it about a quarter cup of it about 4 times a week. Anybody have any guesses? Red beans, black beans, garbanzo, chickpeas. Your guess is black bean. That's a good guess. I love black beans. They actually spike your blood sugar a bit. So I'm just gonna tell you, it's navy beans. Those little tiny white beans. They have a chemical component in them that helps stop the production of amylase. So the little white navy beans. So here's an interesting fact that I learned this last year. We have these enzymes that our bodies create. And one of them, when we're children, when we're babies, helps us break down sugars really quickly so we can get that energy so we can grow and be healthy. But as we grow, it starts to build up in us and it builds up worse in women. Why women get all of it? It's our hormones, but it builds up worse in us than others. And with that buildup, then as we get older, why we start to have problems with weight is not just the insulin resistance, but it's our body's breaking down sugars too quickly. Again, why fiber is so important to help reverse that. But the navy beans help stunt some of that amylase production so that your body's not breaking down sugar so quickly. Okay. So try that. Navy beans. I love them just straight with a little bit of salt and pepper. And I try to add them instead of potatoes. It still gives you that starchy kind of feeling, but that's a great bean to add in. All right, Christo, thanks for your engagement. You guys, love to see you here. Silver D, I did say your comment on lamb works well. And I get that. I am not a lamb lover. I've never liked the taste of lamb. It just is not something I maybe I'd have to build a taste for it, not me. All right, you guys, we'll talk later about insulin resistance, diabetes, why it's a problem, and how you can get better from it. In just about 3 hours, I'll be back. We'll see you at 3. All right? Have a great day, you guys. Thank you.